morning. I'm Tadge Juechter. I'm the chief engineer of the Corvette. Been working on Corvettes for 20 years and never been prouder than now bringing out this new Stingray. We have a lot of advanced technology in the car. When we touch on a couple of technologies that we put in, the driver mode selector, the reconfigurable displays, our patented tire temperature sensing system, our electronic limited slip differential, or ELSD, and then active rev matching. The driver mode selector, if you look in a lot of new cars, there's so many different controls for different subsystems of the car that gets to be fairly elaborate to set up the vehicle the way you want. People have rows of buttons switching things on and off. We wanted to try to make this car, even though it's extremely sophisticated, make it very easy to use. So we created one large button on the center console. You can grab it blind and you turn it left to be more conservative, right to be less conservative, and you walk through modes from weather to eco, which maximizes fuel economy, tour, sport, and track. And it optimizes all the subsystems of the car around the specific driving mode. Now, if you want to go in and customize it, you can through menus in the center stack, but to start, for customers and people just getting used to the car, we've selected up to 12 different features, and depending on how the vehicle is equipped, it can control up to 12 different things, from the ELSD to the steering, the sound of the exhaust, the ride quality, the availability of track-oriented performance, even the cluster appearance will change to optimize to the particular mode you've selected. So I invite you, as you go out and drive the car today, make sure you experience the different modes. I mentioned the reconfigurable display. We have two high-definition screens in every car. That's standard equipment, an 8-inch screen in the center stack, another 8-inch screen in the cluster, and you have three basic appearances: a tour mode that emphasizes the kind of information that you'd want on a long-distance trip where you're just relaxing. Then we have kind of a traditional hard gauge sport mode. You can see that theme in the middle. It's got little pocket gauges that are customizable there, and more performance-oriented information. And then we have a mode that was patterned right after our C6 race car. So it's called a hockey stick tack that really emphasizes the high RPM portion of the rev range, since on the track that's where you spend most of your time, and bar graph information on the vehicle condition. Like I said, that'll be tied into the vehicle mode, or if you find that you like one particular one, you can lock that in and it lowers you that way, and then the drive mode select affects the other things, but you get your standard cluster the way you like it. I mentioned the tire temperature system. This is a system that actually, you've got a tire pressure monitor in each wheel, so you can read your tire pressures at any point. There's also a thermocouple in there, so when you start the car, you basically know if the car's been soaking, you know what the temperature is locally. The problem with that thermocouple is if you start putting energy into the tires get hot and you don't necessarily raise the temperature of that thermocouple very fast. So what we do is we have an algorithm that starts with the thermocouple reading and then adjusts it, gives it a delta based on what you're doing with the vehicle. So we can predict whether the tires are still cold, whether you've warmed them up, put some energy into them, or whether you're flogging the car on a track and so they're likely to be hot. The reason why that's important is that all the chassis controls depend on the knowledge of the friction between the road and the tire to perform their functions. If you know the tires are hot, you can be much more aggressive with ABS, traction control. You can use that knowledge to optimize those systems. If you have no knowledge about how hot the tires are, you have to just be conservative and assume less grip than might be available. So without this system, we might have left a meter of stopping distance, 60 to 0 on the table, because we didn't know what the tire condition was.